What's up, everyone? It's your girl, Ive Karina, and I'm back to fulfill on my Lilith series. And I hope you love my chaotic hair. The entire idea of Lilith is that she is the dark goddess connected to the moon, the mind, and the emotions, and the feminine energy. And with Lilith, we get chaotic energy, right? And we also get a glimpse into our dark sexual nature. And with Lilith in Virgo, we are looking at a very interesting placement. Virgo is a masculine sign. Ruled by Mercury, Virgo is all about the mind and the intellect, right? It's all about communication. And Lilith is, as we said, the dark goddess. So when we put these two together, we're dealing with communication in a kind of chaotic way. As you know, Virgo is symbolized by the idea of purity and perfection. So when we look at Lilith and Virgo, the question is, are we dealing with perfection or are we dealing with being tainted? And I think it's somewhere in the middle where it's perfectly tainted or tainted to perfection, as in the concept of perfection is distorted when Lilith comes here because perfection is seen, especially in today's society, as being concrete, structured, a very specific idea. And Lilith is chaos. So when you put those two together, we get sort of this contorted value system and mentality. Okay? So the first thing that I would mention about Lilith and Virgo is that when we look at the darker chaotic energy of Lilith and Virgo, we're dealing with self awareness and we're dealing with health. And quite often, people who have Lilith and Virgo, they have dealt with some sort of physical health situation, even from a child, that they have, maybe had to battle. And sometimes it's a strong, like, lifelong disease. Sometimes it's just a nick, like it's just like an insecurity. And they may have dealt with some shaming or, some teasing in their younger years when it comes to this placement, right? Now, as the Lilith and Virgo matures in life, they understand that their powers come through their intellectual mastery, right? And so everything is about how you can put together ideas, put together um, displays of projects and work that truly represents who you are. And it might be like an overcompensation for the lack of perfection that you experience in your body, whether it be an actual, like I said, physical disease or just an insecurity. All of the focus is transformed into the work that you do and the service that you commit. And so when we deal with Lilith, we are dealing with a darker lower side, and then we're dealing with a higher side. And people with Lilith and Virgo on the higher side, they're probably the biggest workers, right? They can work incessantly and they can almost lose themselves in their work and sometimes produce quite amazing things because of that dedication and discipline or overcompensation of insecurity and putting all of their mind and effort into their work, right? So there's beautiful things that can come out of even darkness, and that's the entire message that I'm bringing with my little series in general. Now, Virgo is a mercurial sign, and so we're dealing with chattiness and debates. We're often dealing with, situations where we're getting into petty arguments as well with Lilith and Virgo. And of course, gossip, which mirrors Lilith and Gemini, but for different reasons. And Lilith and Virgo also mirror Lilith and Taurus for the physical side, like the physical shaming or not feeling completely always comfortable about the perfection of the body. So Lilith and Virgo, they're working with Gemini and Taurus in a lot of the same arenas, right? But what's unique about Lilith and Virgo is the idea of wanting the perfection, right? And and striving for it, maybe sometimes by any means necessary. And what happens is that in the society, whichever society that you live in, but typically even in the world view, right? There are certain like values and certain ideas that are universally accepted as pure or perfect. For instance, for example, Eurocentric beauty, right? So when we're dealing with like that on a on the realm of Lilith and Virgo, we can sometimes see people who are striving for that kind of perfect beauty, because the idea of perfect is being formed by society, and so they're going after that idea, right? And this is not just about, if you're in a certain culture where it's a different value system on beauty, then it might be that they're striving for. But that perfectionism is crafted by something that is outside of themselves, right? So they can be very nitpicky about their bodies. They can be very nitpicky about how they look, about what they wear. And so you can have two sides of the realm. You can have somebody who is perfectly nipped and tucked, right? As far as the fashion, as far as how they handle their makeup, their hair, everything is perfect, right? And then you could have somebody who lets it all go and is completely disheveled and chaotic and doesn't even take care of themselves, like taking a shower regularly and things like that. These things are possible with the chaotic energy of Lilith and Virgo. So we are seeing that on some levels as well, right? So we're seeing those two extremes, depending on the person and how they handle their situation. Now, Lilith and Virgo also has to deal with their sexuality, and because in society, as I've said, as time stamped as this video is, right? Society still can perceive female sexuality as being something that is, not necessarily, free to express themselves. When we think about the idea of showing your body off and being sexy, even like, the professions, because Virgo's about your job, right? So professions like strippers and whatnot, these are professions that aren't really acknowledged as like, even though these women make great money and they're selling their sexuality, it can be seen as a bad and tainted thing, right? So going back to our sexuality with Lilith and Virgo, we sometimes can omit our sexuality due to the force of society's point of views on what is allowed in a woman, for a woman to, how a woman is to express her body and her sexuality. So this is when we have like this sense of losing your libido at certain times, putting everything into your work, and trying to overlook the fact that you have sexual needs, that you have genitals, and you have, you have a vagina, or you have a penis, and you have needs, you have earthly fleshy needs, and you can aim for perfection almost beyond overreach for it, and overreach for the purity and lose out on that side of your nature. So, Lilith and Virgo can be a difficult placement, and anything with Virgo and feminine energy often is a placement where we're having difficulty really merging the two. I would say even more than like Mars and feminine energy, right? Like Aries and feminine energy, because at least it knows like its place in its opposition. But Virgo is like the masculine idea of femininity. It's similar to Taurus, but the idea of Virgo, even though Taurus is more feminine, is a feminine sign. Virgo is a masculine sign with a feminine symbology, right? So we're dealing with, how am I as a woman within the constraints of a masculine perspective on what is structured and authority and society's requirements for me to be perfect and to fit in. And so you lose the other aspect, or all of the aspects that lie under that image of perfection. So, in dealing with uh, a lower libidos and dealing with that issue, Lilith and Virgo can often overcompensate with their work, but also with like cattiness, pettiness, chattiness, looking for issues within everyone, over criticizing. These are things that happen. Being overly clean, right? These are things that happen when we're at a loss of that sexuality. So my biggest advice is to own your sexuality, to keep working, but own your sexuality and find love and sex in the workplace as well. That's how you'll be able to really grow it and merge it, make it blossom for you, and then you can spread it out to the other areas of your life. So thank you so much for tuning in. And hey, I've got a music channel and I'm starting a whole new journey, so please check that out, and I will see